Hello again, everybody, and welcome once again to Wait for These Guys Friends. I am Mike, I am here with Randy, and I gotta tell you, we have got a weird one for you. We are describing it, I think, before recording as loosey goosey. We're gonna be all over the place, aren't we, Randy?
Very much so. This is a pitch and react kind of show. We'll see how it goes.
There's a few things that we're gonna do. We are gonna hit one normal segment. We're gonna talk about what we've watched this week. It's gonna be fantastic. But mine, I even have a twist on that. We are going to talk about X-Men 97. My goodness, what an episode. Just my word. However, I went to a 3-day music festival this past weekend. I went to Shaky in Atlanta Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I saw so many acts I love and so many more acts I didn't know. I'd done a little bit of research and I was just so excited to see them live, experience this music. And sometimes what you hear when you listen is different from how you get them live. How is I going to take it? And I thought, I've got cool guy Randy right here with his cool guy music. He knows genuinely so much about so many different genres and artists and eras. And I would like to run through some of my favorite personal acts from this weekend that he may or may not know and see how that goes.
Nice.
So unless you tell me no, you're like, no, you're afraid. You're afraid.
Yeah, this music sounds terrible. I don't want to do it, Mike. No, I did check out the lineup. There's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff. I mean, some stuff that I noticed. I'll be curious to see what you come forward with because there's some really fun, interesting, diverse stuff.
The first act this year that I genuinely really cared about was Dexter and the Moonrocks. Do you know anything about Dexter and the Moonrocks?
Oh, don't enlighten me.
So, really interesting band. They're a little older looking than I thought they were, but they had this really cool, like, pop punk sound. And I didn't know anything about them. And my friend Chris sent me a link and he said, you're going to love this. You should ask them to do this song. And it was a video of them after one of their shows saying, send this to your friend's name, Mike. And it's a chant saying, fuck you, Mike. So they did not do that live.
But lame.
But no, really fun and really, like, how do I say this? It started off the day with like this interesting anti-establishment type thing where like you could tell they've been grinding and out for a while, but not in a bad way. But they're just like, fuck off. We have to do these things. We love playing music. It was just really fun, good stuff. And it had a beat so you can dance to it.
Cool.
There you go.
I'll have to check them out. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a massive fan of Winona Fighter. And as people started drinking, you can guess that they just started being called Winona Ryder. And it wasn't even like we're being funny or cute. People's brains couldn't process saying a different name. So like there were 4 of us and it was just like, yeah, no, and we have to get over to Winona Ryder. Fuck! Winona Fighter. You gotta get over there. They are hardcore girl pop punk. Do you know them?
I know of them. Just some more I've heard about their live performances where it's just they kind of get out there and get people in the mix, and their lead singer is just a psychopath.
Yes, I loved it. She's this tiny blonde girl walks out in front of the stage, and I have no idea what is about to happen, and she just goes so fucking hard. I mean, on the vocals, on the performance, on the energy, on getting people involved. I don't believe they've released a lot of music, but I like the album they put out. I think they had an EP and a couple singles, and they shored up their live set with a couple of really fun covers.
Oh, cool.
But it was very entertaining. I was a really big fan of what was going on there.
I did have a couple I was going to ask you about if you didn't.
Oh, no, please. Yeah. I can only tell you who I saw, obviously.
Did you see Axe and the Hatchetmen?
I did. They were very good. I liked them a lot. Yeah.
When I hear them, I've heard a couple of their songs. I was just like, I bet you these guys kick ass live. They kind of have like a Neon Trees vibe almost, you know?
Yes,
like,
very well.
Can you hear that? Yeah.
A couple of other artists. I'll tell you who I saw because every day you know there's competing stages and things going on. I saw Del Water Gap. Do you know Del Water Gap?
I know the name. I don't know if I've heard their stuff though. I know of them, but
it was very slow, and I was not in the mood for slow because it was like the last 2 we had seen like Winona Fighter and someone else who was just really rocking. And then they were on the main stage. They were like a big deal act who I'd never heard of. And they were just like, and now we're going to sing. We're going to, and I'm like, I have to go. I need to go walk around. I'm going to get cheese fries. And I got cheese fries.
Nice.
So
that was more exciting than the band.
Yes. I didn't realize how many songs I knew by Switchfoot. That one had taken me some time. I just was really surprised.
It kind of snuck into the, radio play and all that other stuff. So
Metric was great.
Oh,
Do you know
great. Love Metric, yeah.
I only knew them from, they did the songs for Scott Pilgrim that Brie Larson sang, or at least her character sang. And so I was excited for that. And they opened with the main song from the movie that they did.
Is that Black Sheep? Is that what that one is? Or
yes.
Yeah, Help I'm Alive is an awesome song. That's another great song by them. So
then they did a whole set, they were, and I just got into them, right?
They're great.
That was one of those ones where I didn't know what to expect. And the way that they're every song, how do I say this? I don't know if I could listen to their album because, and I need to give it a shot because it did strike me, as we've talked so much about homogenous music, right? That can lose me. The live set did start to get there for me, but also I was outdoors enjoying music, so it kept me more engaged watching the performance. If it blended together in an album, I don't know how I would feel about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's definitely when you hear their music as part of like a shuffle, you're like, yes, this song rocks. But I could definitely see that vibe after about the fourth one in a row. You're like,
yes,
all right, I get it. But it's still really good, but it's maybe not as an extended listen. I could see that.
And then the last act I cared about was, so we could either see Young the Giant or Arcade Fire. Who would you have chosen in this scenario?
Arcade Fire. That's what I would have picked, but
I went Young the Giant, and it was delightful.
Okay. Great. Yeah. I have nothing against Young the Giant. I just really like Arcade Fire, so it's
fair enough. Have you ever seen that SNL sketch from like 10 years ago where they bring a Tina Fey's hosting, and is this a new cast member or a member of Arcade Fire? And people can't tell, and they don't know what anyone is. It's very good.
So funny. That was the same one where they played after, right? Like they stayed on the air, and she's like, "Get ready, this is gonna get weird." I just remember Tina Fey saying that as they go off the air, and it was.
So the headliner on Friday was Noah. I can't say their last name. Kahan.
Yeah.
Kananan.
I think it's Kahan. Yeah.
Kahan.
It might be Kahan. I don't know.
Kahan. I didn't know anything from them. I didn't know anything about them. And there was a lot of discourse during the day, not just amongst my friends, from a lot of people I just talked to in the crowd, that he didn't strike anyone as the Friday headliner. Last year at this festival, the Friday headliner was the Killers, and it's one of the best sets I've ever seen in my life. And now this guy was fine, but I'll be honest, we left early. We left we're like, let's beat the traffic. And I don't know him well enough. Listen, if it's not my wheelhouse, I get it. If he's a megastar, I get it. But he didn't grab me, and we bolted, and I don't regret that.
What I know of him is he's hit it kind of more mainstream with a lot of his duets or kind of collaborations. He did a collaboration with Hozier, another one with Casey Musgraves. Like I know of those songs that because when I looked up the lineup, I'm like, oh, I know this guy, but not for his own stuff, just for the stuff he did with other people. There's a song called Northern Attitude with Hozier that's really, really good. I would encourage you to check it out just as like a one-off one. I don't know if he played that because I'm sure Hozier wasn't there. So, but maybe he played it with somebody else. That it is a little bit surprising just seeing. I mean, I would have thought Arcade Fire would have.
In my mind, and obviously I didn't choose to see them versus the other, but I still would have put name value above in my mind. But what do I know?
Although I think he's from Nashville though, right? So maybe proximity, maybe. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. And then the next night we did, let's see, who did we have? I wasn't in love with the Saturday. Saturday was my least favorite day.
Okay.
We had Dexter and the Moonrocks was actually Saturday. I was looking at the wrong schedule when I first named that one. We started our Friday with Winona Fighter. So I liked Dexter and the Moonrocks, but that wasn't until we didn't go into the festival on Saturday until 2:40, which is like 4 or 5 acts in because we just didn't care about a lot of the day. But after that, we did Holly Humberstone, who was fine. We did Girl in Red, who I loved. I didn't know anything about Girl in Red. I have been listening to her since I left. She just released a Talking Heads cover for a Stop Making Sense tribute album.
Oh,
I was
wow.
a big fan. And
Cool.
then also I did a TikTok that performed decently well because there was this inflatable butter I was seeing all weekend.
Yeah.
And she was performing, and I kept getting distracted looking at the inflatable butter. And I posted a video of that, and it did okay. So,
Nice.
so
And you
oh,
met
and
the guy
she,
who had it, right?
yes,
I
yes,
saw that.
and Girl in Red liked my Instagram one of that
Ooh, nice.
post. So that's
There you
she
go.
has 2 million followers on Instagram, and I have nothing on Instagram compared to TikTok, and I got a like out of it.
What Instagram would that be, Mike? We'll do plug super early.
Oh God, no, it's not till the end, Randy. Mike Barcode, MikeBarcode. Offspring, also amazing because
Really?
they
Okay.
they were so good. You know what it was? Would I go to an Offspring concert? No. Did I love them playing every single hit I wanted the Offspring to play while I was already at a music festival? Fucking absolutely.
Okay.
No regrets. It was fantastic. It's the Offspring. They have a lot of hits. They don't have any hits past 2004, but
Was
they
it
have a
heavy
lot of
from
hits.
Smash, or did they keep throwing in the bug one, which was
Hang on,
like,
let me. You'll know.
yeah,
Here, I'll
yeah,
read
no,
you the
just
set list.
you get to Pretty Fly for a White Guy, and I'm like, I'm
There was
okay.
a bit of that, obviously.
Then the other one that sounds like Pretty Fly for a White Guy, I forget what it's called.
They did not actually play that one, which is
The,
American Gangster,
yeah,
original
Prankster.
Prankster.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
actually, I thought they were going to play that one. They skipped it. So here is the Offspring lineup. Come out and play. All I want you bad, staring at the sun. They did a cover of Blitzkrieg Bop, which, by the way, I want to say like 3 to 4 bands covered Blitzkrieg Bop this weekend because they all love it. And sure, it's a great song, but I was a little tired of Blitzkrieg Bop by the end of the night.
Also, 3 chords. It's pretty easy to play. Like it's.
The best part about that, though, is the Foo Fighters, who were the Sunday night headliner, also did it. So I'm just like, well, I guess if we're gonna go hard, we go hard.
Sure.
But it was kind of funny. They at least did it as part of a medley that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Bad Habit, Gotta Get Away, Why Don't You Get a Job, Can't Get My Head Around You, Pretty Fly for a White Guy, The Kids Aren't All Right, You're Gonna Go Far, Kids, Self-Esteem's the closer.
Okay.
Like, that's a good Offspring lineup. That's all I need to hear. It's all I care to hear.
I would tune out once or twice, but yeah, by and large, that's pretty good.
You got to look at it. They were given an hour,
Yeah.
and I got everything I needed out of the Offspring in an hour with a couple tune-out songs. You're right. So you're doing just fine. I was texting you, and you stopped responding to me. Weezer was the headline on Saturday.
What was I doing? I was doing something Saturday. So I think my son had a lacrosse game or something. We were involved with something. So, but
By the way, Dexter and the Moonrocks are the ones who covered Sabotage that I sent you the video of on Saturday. You know, this private conversation.
The first cover of Sabotage, right?
Yes, because then the Foo Fighters also did
It's
a
a
cover of
recurring theme,
Sabotage.
just multiple covers of the same song.
That all get done again by the Foo Fighters Sunday night. It's crazy. Oh, one other artist I didn't mention on Saturday that I really liked, and I've listened to them since, was Dead Poet Society. Not Poets, Dead Poet Society. Really good, big fan. They rock. Our mutual friend Drew is going to see them. Actually, he saw them last night. I need to follow up with him after this. And he had told me that before I saw they were at this festival. He's like, yeah, I'm going to see this band I really like. Blah, 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 blah. I was
So
like,
they more hardcore?
No, which is what confused me because our friend Drew is like a death metal fan.
Yeah.
I love this man. He is one of the kindest, nicest, best men on the planet. But if he gives me a music recommendation, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to hate it. However, this one, which, by the way, when he had told me them, so often I'll at least give the song or the artist he tells me a shot. I didn't even bother with this one. And then I saw there at the festival, and they were fucking fantastic. And I texted him. I was like, they were great. I did not see that coming. It's like good rock music, a little harder edge maybe, but it is not, you know, which is how that all sounds to
Creeping
me.
death fetus
Exactly.
monstrosity. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever. Sunday, obviously, I've already mentioned a couple of times, the main headliner Sunday was Dialing Back Saturday, Weezer. If you go to their website, it currently says they are on the Blue Tour, which is they're going to play the entire Blue album for its 30th anniversary. They did not do that. They played a 100% identical ripoff of their last 3 set lists while saying that the Blue Tour starts this fall. I was not pleased.
Oh,
Here's the thing. I love Weezer. We have talked about this. I'm a
yep.
Weezer stan.
Mm-hmm.
I knew 90% of the songs they played, including a lot
Right.
of the ones that you wouldn't, that other people wouldn't. I love Weezer. But I had mentally readied myself that I was getting the entire
Mm.
Blue album. And it was hard for me to accept that I wasn't.
That's tough because you know you're about to gear up for like 45 minutes of awesome, and it's like it's fine, like, but you don't get it specifically what you're looking for.
It was frustrating because, yeah, I loved it, but in that regard, but excuse for me to go see Weezer this fall. And knowing that you love that album, would you like to go see Weezer with me this fall? It's the one time we could actually do that and hang out and go see Weezer together. It'd be
I'm
great.
down. Yeah, like I said, I think I even said it on that podcast we discussed it. I saw them in Boston do that one night, 12 or 13 years
Uh-huh.
ago, and it was awesome. It was just great. And the way they set it up, I would be curious to see if they do it the same way. They do it like almost like a little mini set, like
Mhm.
6-7 songs of stuff from their entire catalog, and then go into the Blue album. So I'll be curious to see if they do that again.
When I saw Huey Lewis in the News 30th anniversary of the Sports album tour, which is phenomenal and I absolutely loved because I'm a Huey Lewis stan, saw him in concert 4 times before he had to retire.
No
Would have been
apology
a
needed.
would have been a 5th if he didn't have the hearing loss. He was touring that summer.
Right.
Would have been it was the tour where he was going to be with Jimmy Buffett. I missed out on that, and it
Yeah,
kills me.
that's
Anyway,
crazy. Like that happened to AC/DC's frontman too.
yeah, dude, and same fucking thing, by the way. AC/DC, who had been touring my entire life with Brian Johnson as their lead singer, my entire life, I had an opportunity to see them, and I thought, it's AC/DC. I'll see them next year. Never saw AC/DC in concert. It is a regret I still think about to this day.
Yeah.
It kills me. Anyway, Huey Lewis played the entire Sports album. Then his encore wasn't 2 songs. It was like a 10-song set of other Huey Lewis songs. So
Nice.
that was really cool. Weezer doing that, that'd be neat. Either order, I'd be a fan. Anyway, Sunday. Foo Fighters was the headliner. They melted my goddamn face. They're so
Mhm.
good. I had never seen the Foo Fighters live.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know I'm behind the times. It's as Dave Grohl jokes about it in the show, which, by the way, the definitive rock star after watching that show. If somebody was like, you have one chance, you have one choice, you can take one person to represent being a perfect rock star, I'm choosing Dave Grohl. And that's
I don't know if there's another example of someone who has done that to the extent in 2 massive historical music groups like he has. I mean, you can do the argument of, hey, Paul McCartney and Wings, and it's like, well, Wings is not Nirvana or Foo Fighters, however you want to do that.
exactly.
Matt Cameron, maybe the drummer from Pearl Jam, was also in Soundgarden. I mean, that's
It's
closer,
not
I
the
think.
same
It's
level.
not the
It's not
same.
the
It's
same level.
closer, but and I'm sure someone can come up with something to be like, well, this person was in this and this, maybe. But I don't think there's another example of just 2 Hall of Fame bands that this guy was instrumental in. Not that he was just like, oh, I played the tambourine, in Nirvana, which would be a funny aside if they did that. But
Yeah, I love that 4-man Nirvana band with Kurt Cobain, Chris
weirdly, Pete
Novoselic,
Best played the
Dave
tambourine. So
Grohl, yes, and Pete Best on tambourine. I really want to just do an edit of Nirvana songs with a subtle tambourine track in the background. I would time it. I would time it right. It would fit for the track, but I would just
Cowbell or
add
something. Yeah, I'm in.
tambourine to every Nirvana. I'm making that for next week.
I like it.
We are getting a copyright flag next week. We're going to get a copyright restriction when we upload this to YouTube next week because you're getting Nirvana with a tambourine from me next week.
I'm gonna jump in. Did you see Dinosaur Jr. Sunday?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, technically, yes.
Uh-oh.
There. So we went over to the side stages. We had just we came in partway through the day. The first act we saw that day was the Struts on Sunday. They were
Okay.
really good. He
Mhm.
did have one faux pas where he made it clear he would rather be playing arenas than festivals and had to like awkwardly be like, but I love you people and you're here for this. It's like, oh boy.
But not this festival. That's not what
Yeah.
I mean.
It was really like we all looked around at each other. It was the first act of the day and we're a bunch of fucking late 30s, early 40 men with our iced coffees, not drinking yet, standing at the Struts concert, enjoying our morning being 2:30. We did stay up.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he's talking and he's like, and he's British, by the way. I didn't realize they're good. I
Mhm.
like the Struts. I couldn't name a song,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
liked them. I knew a couple hits. Like I knew of the hits when they played them. But I'm gonna do a terrible British accent to try to do it right proudly. It's just that we're over here and you go, we all want to be rock stars. Everyone wants to be a rock star. I love being a rock star. I mean, I want to be playing this time next year. I'd like to be in an arena. I want to be playing arenas. And then he like pauses and he's like, but this crowd's amazing. And I was like, ooh, he had a moment. He had a moment he did not mean to have. That was not good.
They told us they knew how to rock in. Looks like guitar Shelby then. It's like exactly like that.
Oh God. We would see Struts. We go over and we kind of do like a merch run, look at stuff, get some
Mhm.
food. We catch the second half of Kingfish. And like he's more bluesy. We
Mhm.
want to see it, but we weren't dying. We go. And it had been promising rain all weekend.
Okay.
It had not rained all weekend.
Mm.
This one day Sunday, it had nothing but a 30% chance of a drizzle at 5:30. So in my expert wisdom on Sunday, I decide that will be the one day, the final day, I do not bring my poncho with me. And this will be
Ooh.
fine. Anyway, you can see where this is going. The
Yep.
heavens parted. The sky is opened. I'm talking flash flood. I have videos I can send you of just, I'm not embellishing, like rivers and waterfalls forming and streaming and just gushing throughout and mud piles forming. And, and they never stopped the music. Dinosaur Jr. went on during this. So
Nice.
I know I technically saw Dinosaur Jr., but they started as the rain started. And like
Oh,
as
wow.
their set picked up, the rain picked up, and no one was focusing on Dinosaur Jr. I
Yeah.
could not tell you a thing they played or what happened. I was looking forward to them.
That's too bad. They're a lot of fun, yeah.
We went over to watch the second half of that Kingfish act to be closer to the stage where Dinosaur Jr. was going to be. So, because they had like two areas, right? Two stages here, two stages here. And they're like, well, we want to see them. We'll go over there.
Mhm.
And it was, wow. It was so much rain. We were tracking puddle, like everything was soaked. People who had covers and ponchos on, they didn't matter. Like it was too
Yeah.
much rain. That said, we survived it.
Mhm.
It only lasted about an hour,
Okay.
which admittedly, an hour in torrential flash flood rains without cover is a long hour. That's a
Yeah.
long hour in your life. And then Billy Idol came on. And because Billy Idol was randomly there. And he is like, in my mind, a mismatch for this festival. He doesn't
Yeah.
really fit the vibe. But can I tell you? Fucking loved every second.
Yeah.
Every second. And he was so good. And can I tell you, you know how they say you should never wear the shirt of the concert you're going to, like, don't wear the band shirt of the concert you're going to, right?
Right.
Billy Idol was wearing a Billy Idol t-shirt while he was performing his
That's the
entire set.
exception. If if the artist is doing it, I think it's fine.
We looked up and
Especially an artist that was relevant 40 years ago. I think
well,
is
and the man's 68. We looked it up and he sounded great. And we laughed because we did watch the night before we watched his Wedding Singer clip. And I remember thinking how old he'd looked in that compared to how he looked in the 80s. Add another 20
he's
years.
aged.
25, yeah, he's aged. He's 68. But man, voice was there. The energy was there. Because he came on as the rain was stopping, there wasn't a big crowd at first. But it was so fun seeing Billy Idol win everyone over because he's a mismatch for the festival. It was raining. It was a little cold. It was soaked everywhere. And he's older. And it was just not going to be something that I think people were hyped for. But he was the first act and he was fucking giving it his all. It was packed by the end of him. It was awesome. Like, I just really, there was something about the way it all coalesced. And I don't know if the rain hadn't happened, if everyone would have swarmed to Billy Idol the way they did. Maybe I'm wrong. but I really just appreciated it. And I was like, what a good fucking experience that
It does
was.
help that his stuff is a little more upbeat. Like I was, if they threw out some other eight, like they threw Morrissey out there, it would be,
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
Yeah. Everyone would
people would
be.
have revolted and just left and been like, all right, we're coming back with Foo Fighters out there.
Concession stands never closed. People were getting drinks the whole time, even through the floods. And the water was ankle high around all the bar stands. And they eventually put out pallets that you could stand on. I will tell you, I ordered at least one drink before they put those pallets out. It was a hell of a weekend. So, but I enjoyed myself. I realized I just started telling you random act stories instead of asking you about a lot of bands, but I think we talked about a few. I chose Portugal the Man over Matt and Kim. Do you have a
Good.
preference there?
I think that's an amazing choice. I do not like Matt and Kim.
Neither do
uh,
I. I've heard they're better live, but that doesn't mean anything to me when I don't really like the
right.
music otherwise. Yeah.
Yep.
Every song to me sounds like I don't like your music. That's every Matt and Kim song right now.
I think that's pretty good, pretty
Perfect
accurate there.
tone.
So.
Yeah.
And Portugal the Man mixes it up a little bit. I know everybody knows the one "Feel It Still" song, but they got some other stuff that's catchy and fun. So
I will say that we, and a lot of people did this. Portugal the Man was a lot of fun, but they were the act that was on before the Foo Fighters.
right.
On not, they were on the same side, but they have the two competing, like you finish, then you go, you finish, then you go. And Foo Fighters obviously on the biggest stage. A lot of us left early to go get good spots for Foo Fighters.
Sure.
They obviously played Feel Still and some of the other songs last to keep people there as much as they could. And I heard them and they sounded great. But
Yeah.
to say I saw them perform those songs, I would be a lie because I left to go get spot for Foo Fighters, who were amazing, as we said.
Looking at the breakdown, there was only one other one. Did you go see Sunny Day Real Estate on Saturday? Out of curiosity, you said you got there later. Okay,
No, we did not.
they're fun. I saw them a long time ago. Yeah, like in God, in the late '90s, long time ago. So, and I've always enjoyed them. They're kind of just an interesting alt rock. They were in that Seattle scene, so they were on Sub Pop to start in the mid '90s. So they're fun. They're worth checking out.
Oh, I didn't mention we saw Microwave. They were pretty good. I couldn't tell you what they were playing, but I liked them. I have memories of enjoying Microwave.
Gotcha. A name, yeah. So I feel like that's happened at times on like Warped Tour or something like that, where I've gone to a
Yes.
festival and something sticks in your mind. And it's kind
Yeah.
of funny sometimes where you're just like, oh, cool, I'll have to go check them out. You look up their music, you're like, wow, I must have just either been a few drinks in or just enjoying the vibe because this isn't good at all when I hear it as a recorded thing.
What's so funny is, or one of my favorite things is when you do that and then you still love them. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
find them in that moment and it's
Mhm.
not, oh, I was drunk, or oh, it's not the energy. You're like, oh no, this is what I wanted it to be. I'm going to see on June 5th in Baltimore the band Murder by Death.
Mhm.
And I don't remember if we've talked about them on here, but they are the definitive. I'm embarrassed to talk about them because they have the worst name possible, because it's an awkward name to say. And then the genre they play doesn't fit how their name sounds.
Mm.
They are not death metal. You would think they would be. They are like indie folk rock, and I love them. They're so good. I've described them as Mumford & Sons fronted by Johnny Cash. I
Mm.
adore them. Talking about them is always a fucking speech, though, to get there.
Yeah.
So, but they were one of those bands for me. We were hanging out, just partying at a friend's house one night years ago, and they put on, I think it was Manchester Orchestra's, like a Tiny Desk concert or an NPR concert. And I like Manchester. They're good. I
Mhm.
enjoy them.
Sure.
The Shake It Out album, fucking phenomenal. One of my favorite
Mhm.
albums. But they just kind of let things play, right? And a NPR concert for this Murder by Death group came up, and I'm enraptured. And it's one of those moments where, like, my friend went to, like, I remember it so clearly, like, either hit it next or do it. And I was like, if you touch that mouse right now to switch this, I will ruin you because I am loving this. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, we can just let it go. No worries. And then
Oh, aggressive, Mike.
I wrote it in my phone. And think about, when I get confused, I get loud and angry, like all smart
Mm.
people do. So I wrote it in my phone and I looked it up the next day, and I remember texting them like, I still love it. And they're like, oh,
Hmm.
fucking great. So
It's interesting, and there's one other parallel. I kind of have a similar story. I went and saw Vampire Weekend. This is probably a while ago, late aughts, however we call it. And it was right when that first album hit, and they were becoming really big. We saw them in Boston, and the band that opened for them was a band called Black Kids, which, again, trying to explain that to people and they were kind of they had like a modern Cure vibe. It was really, really cool. Like, just they had a main singer, but then two female vocalists that were kind of also co-singers, but also sometimes kind of a back and forth type thing. It
Interesting.
just had a really cool vibe to it. And my wife and I got the album and literally listened to that album on repeat for the next like 2-3 months, and we still pull it out from time to time to listen to that. It's again, to try to say, this band you should really check out, Black Kids, and then you have to like, oh, it's the name of the band. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna write. Yeah, like the fact that I was about to say, oh, I'm gonna write it down, and if you look at my phone, I just have a note that says Black Kids.
It's
If anyone looked at my phone right now for any particular reason, they'd be
so
like, "What's
right,
Shaky
like
doing there?"
hyphen party traumatic. That's
Oh yeah.
that's the name of the album, so that'll help you.
Parentheses. What's it called?
Party traumatic.
Party traumatic. Okay.
Which sounds more emo than the band actually is.
And then I'm still writing the word album in the parentheses so that it's not just Black Kids Party Traumatic. Like, I had a bad racist experience. So,
yeah.
It's an album.
The music is really good. Please, I sound like I'm pleading for my case.
I've been there. I get it. So, anyway, this is a little deeper than I thought it would, but I love talking music with you, as always.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm glad you had a good time. That looks like a really cool show, and it sounds like you made the most of. Sometimes it's tough because you can get stuck in a couple of bands, and you're like, I just spent 45 minutes really listening to a band I didn't care about.
This is our second year going to this, and I've done 1 or 2 festivals with these guys, like my crew that we go, and we all kind of have our game plans, and there's a real big, maybe it's because we're older, maybe it's because we're grown up, maybe it's because we're all paying adult money for this.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like something, or you're not wanting to look at something, or you don't want to play, we don't all have to stay together. You can go see the act you want to see. If you don't like the act, you can go look at something else. There's no obligation here. And I feel like, as silly as it sounds, if I was 28, I would have forced myself to do a lot of things at a festival that I didn't care to do, or be there from, 11 a.m. to whatever on my feet the whole time. No, fuck that. You know how often I sat down?
Yeah.
Just cause in a fucking dirty field because I'm an old man and I felt like having a sit down. It was great. That said,
Nice.
My step count was off the chart this weekend.
I bet. Yeah.
That was me. Before we hit X-Men, you watch, listen, enjoy anything new or different you want to talk about this week?
I had to think about that. Not really. Continuing from last week, the 2 Boston sports teams won their respective rounds, so they continued to be on.
The wife still dominates.
It comes kind of more fast and furious now, where there's either a hockey or a basketball game on pretty much every night. So that's been pretty much what's been on in our household. Oh, and you know what I did? The season 3 of Hacks on HBO. What's her name? Jean Smart? Is that her name?
Oh,
I don't know if you know
is that the one with
sort
like
of Joan Riversy comedian, and then she has the
daughter?
millennial. It's not her daughter, but yeah.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's
Okay.
millennial writer that works really well with her, but then they have this kind of odd relationship. It's a fun, kind of different look at I guess it's a comedic aspect to it. So definitely a comedy, but
It looks funny, and I only know of it, and the reason why I thought it was her daughter is the only things I ever see of it are I get a lot of, I don't follow them, but because I love The Righteous Gemstones and some of the other Danny McBride HBO shows, HBO has a specific TikTok comedy page that just posts clips from their comedy shows. And so I will just get clips from this periodically. And
Yeah.
I always enjoy the clips, and I have no context as to what's happening. I legit just saw one this morning that I laughed at about like where the older Jean Smart had the housekeeper insulting the haircut of the younger girl.
Yeah.
And it was funny. 100% assumed it was a mother-daughter thing. I had no idea what was going on in this show.
So their dynamic definitely takes on those, there's a personality there that it sort of develops into that relationship, even though, I mean, she has a daughter in the show, but it's Jean Smart does. But it's almost mentory at the same time too. But but she's not always the greatest person. So
Okay.
there's interesting where no one is completely fleshed out and no one is perfect, and so the way they play off each other, but they really work well together, and so it's interesting how that develops. Hannah Einbender is the name of the younger woman who's the writer.
Which, by the way, I just looked up who her parents are. Nepo baby alert, but a cool one. I appreciate it.
Oh, really?
Because
I didn't know that.
when you name a parent who is famous to us but hasn't been publicly famous in like 30 years, are they still a nepo baby? Yeah, probably. One of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live, Lorraine Newman, is her mother.
Really? I've been watching this show this is the third season. I've been watching for 2 seasons. I had no idea. Huh.
Lorraine Newman's her mama. So there you go. I got really aggressive with that, but yes.
She looks like her dad then. I don't see a lot of resemblance, but
And respect to her probably trying to distance herself from whatever. She took her dad's name professionally. So there you go. So no, I'll have to actually watch the show sometime and not a 45-second clip given to me on social media.
it's pretty easy. They're all like 30, 35-minute episodes, so you can get through the seasons. And the seasons are only like, I think, 8 episodes, so you can get them through them pretty quick.
I need to. After I finished Fallout last week, I was on a real Walton Goggins kick, and I just started watching Righteous Gemstones again. Like I started it over, but I'm like kind of skipping to just watch Baby Billy scenes, and I'm really just watching it like it's a Baby Billy show. It's been so
Hey, there you
good.
go.
Shut up, nerd. I love that show so much. He's so good on that show. Anyway, perfect transition to some real nerd shit. X-Men 97, episode 9 of 10?
Yeah, 9,
Yes,
yeah.
episode 9.
The second of the
Woo!
third of the 3, whatever, episode
What?
finale, right?
Yes, what a fucking banger. Partway through, I took a couple notes. I took a lot of notes because I actually watched it immediately before we started recording this, like immediately. So it's very fresh, but I wrote everything down. I want you to talk about it first because you don't know the comics like I know the comics. And I want to hear what you maybe knew or what you may have experienced or just how you felt watching it. I want to hear what you thought.
I mean, pretty shocked, right? Because at the very, I mean, that's I have to start with the end just because
Yeah, spoilers,
that
I
was
suppose.
yeah,
But yeah, there you go.
spoiler. So the end where Magneto just tore Wolverine apart.
Yes.
And I did read one quick recap kind of before we hopped on. So I guess that image at the very end is like straight from the comics. Like
I
that
would, yes,
flame.
that was, if you didn't know that, I was going to, did you see it? I was going to screen share the side by side to you. I have a side by side ready to
Oh
go.
no, I haven't seen it. I just like read it and obviously I saw it on the screen, but
This is a audio format. This is literally just for Randy. I wanted Randy to see this as we talked about it.
To see that it is that they're that similar. Obviously, we think of Wolverine as this indestructible warrior, and so oh yeah, wow, it is.
He's
very
literally
close.
just ripping the adamantium off of his bones, pulling it as liquid through every pore in his fucking body.
Oof.
And just people had it said for years, and I feel like people who didn't know this comic existed. This comic was published in 1993. So for years of X-Men movies, for years of popular X-Men media, you heard so many people who didn't know the comics going, why couldn't Magneto just stop Wolverine? And there was every smug comic book fan being like, oh, he did. He fucking did.
Yeah.
And this is how.
So the follow-up question I would have to that, and maybe it's in comic lore, and so those are pretty mortal wounds that Magneto suffered. Does he have healing ability that I don't know about?
So they handled Magneto's fate differently than the comic. I thought they were doing it identically, and then they didn't. They faked me out. So in the comics, they reverse it. Magneto rips out the adamantium from Wolverine, and then Professor X says, enough, 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 does his attack, and just completely mind wipes and destabilizes Magneto.
Oh,
so
okay.
Here, Professor X did the big mental attack. It didn't work. And Wolverine attacked Magneto and then ripped the metal out. So
Okay.
It's similar but different where I can't tell you where it's gonna go because which is fascinating because they're hitting so many beats I know that are so iconic and so familiar, but they've got me going, "Oh, what we gonna do here?"
Well, and then I also read that I guess in the comics, Jean is there when this happens, so she's able to telekinetically keep him sort of together while he can heal.
His
I
body is literally in chunks, but his healing factor
yeah,
is still working.
yep,
So she is using her telekinesis to hold him and using her
yeah,
telepathy to keep him distracted, essentially.
yeah.
Yes. It's
So while his body catches up, and then it sort of so when that happens in the comics, is he devoid of adamantium now?
he is.
Okay.
And I won't go into the weeds because I literally cut out 15 minutes of me talking about comic books last week from the episode. I listened to it and cut out 15 minutes of me just not shutting the fuck up. So, what I will say, trying to make it succinct, it turns out in the comics, his healing factor is one of the most powerful on the planet and can regenerate to almost anything and does so much more. But it was being kept at bay, constantly keeping him alive because he was always being adamantium poisoned, which is why we remember like he was the only one that survived it in the
Mm,
movies. That's why he's the rarity that they did this and he's the only one that ever made it. In the comics, it's the same. He's the only one that ever had the adamantium successfully bonded. And it only happened because he had this healing factor that was so powerful. It became just like good healing after because it was constantly keeping him alive and not being adamantium poison.
gotcha. Okay.
So, but basically, there's a lot of repercussions in the comics. It's this episode basically adapted parts of Uncanny X-Men 304, X-Men 25, as the nerds call it, adjectiveless X-Men, because they just call it X-Men. And
Hmm.
then I'm hoping and praying and pleading that the third part adapts Wolverine 75, which is what we just talked about, Jean holding him together, the aftermath of this attack, what he deals with in the immediate aftermath. If it does, I'm just like, my
Hmm.
God. Because just because you and I look at that, I wrote something here. I knew it was coming because of things I'd seen in the episode. It still gave me goosebumps. They animated one of the most famous comic frames of all time and brought it to life. I have dealt with 20 years of repetitive X-Men media where it's the same story and the same beats and the same things over and over. And then I saw this and my breath actually left my chest.
Mm.
So thank you for letting me get poetic about this nerdy, nerdy shit. And frankly, I think more succinctly than I did last week. So
Another thing is Cable being controlled by Sinister is uh-oh.
yeah, that's pretty
Um,
neat.
I don't know if we never saw Jean go like be destroyed, so I know she's not gone, or I don't think so. But I think also contributing to the Cyclops thing, right? Like I'm sure this is messing with him mentally, so which is already kind of fragile to begin with. So I could see his heel turn coming,
Man,
maybe.
I'm going. That's just it. It's the maybe. I'm going back and forth. At the top of the episode, when Xavier's there, and Xavier gives what I felt like was a very nice apologetic. This was always I wanted you to have a life
Mm-hmm.
speech, and it was
Yeah.
really nice. I wrote, I genuinely, truly wanted Cyclops to take his hand so badly. I wanted that moment. I wanted the connection. And he walked away. And that's when I thought, oh, villain turn. But then at the end, they have that little look at each other of understanding. And I think maybe not. They are really
Hmm.
keeping me on edge with this. And I love it because
Yeah.
they are hitting so many. What's so great about something like this is the way that they're able to do the fan service in the sense that they are adapting famous things, things that have never been brought to media, live action or cartoons before, things X-Men fans are dying to see, but they're not doing it so slavishly that I am like, well, I know exactly what's about to happen. It's
Hmm.
a perfect melding where I'm on the edge of my seat, even though I just saw 10 things I knew exactly were going to happen. It's very exciting. Other little notes that I have here. Let me look up. Oh, interesting thing you say about Cable. That didn't happen in this storyline either, but that does pull from a very modern storyline of this past year's big X-Men event. There was an event called Sins of Sinister, where, without getting into it, Mr. Sinister managed to mind control and take over pretty much every mutant on the planet and rewrite them in his image. It didn't go great. So, yeah. Anyway, I would listen to the voice actress of Storm reading the phone book. I would just like to listen to her talk to me. I don't need to have a conversation. I want that scene from The Simpsons where she goes, "Hey, Aaron, send to Z Zelda, the biggest gossips in the phone book." I just want that for hours. It is soothing.
405 382. Just with such bluster and fervor.
If you are looking for a plumber, turn to page 385 in the yellow pages. Let the winds guide you and turn your pages thusly. Anyway.
Are leaks making you unlucky?
I will control the winds and the rains to guide your water. All right. Oh, I'm getting so loud. I love it.
Actually, a Storm Plumbing, company would actually work pretty well.
It would be good. And Forge would be such a great handyman to have on staff. He could do anything.
So that's one question I did have, actually, now that I think about that. So when Forge and Storm showed up on the top of the building to save Sunspot and Jubilee, does Forge have like a jetpack or something, or is it in his cyberkinetic thing? How does he just like magically fly down?
I did laugh that I wrote that. They're literally just, they're MacGuffining, not MacGuffining because that's a chase for a mystical item. They're trying to think, what's the term for, it's just, they have Forge's leg doing anything they need Forge's leg to do.
Oh, gotcha.
He's a super genius and he made a leg. It can do anything.
But the hand of God type stuff, what's that? Deus Machina or Machina or whatever? Yeah.
Deus Ex Machina. They're Deus Ex Machining him his leg. So it's like, oh, Forge, how's your leg not turned off by all the power? Oh, I did the thing. Oh, wow. Hey, Forge, how'd you get down here? I put a rocket in it. It's like, wow, this fucking leg's amazing. It's like, and you can always say, because he's a genius inventor, he's just tweaking it between episodes, right? You never have to see him do it. They can be like, Forge, when did you do that? About an hour ago. It's fine. I knew that this story was being adapted at 23:05 left in the episode. That the Wolverine stuff was going to happen, that the Asteroid M stuff was going to play out the way it did, because Cyclops started dropping blue and gold team references and assigning teams in a way that Uncanny X-Men 304 is one of my favorite comics of all time, and also one of the first ones I have an early memory of. I was 9 years old when it came out. I had technically been reading comics beforehand, but there's a certain point in your life where you're doing things, but you don't have a consciousness of it. You don't have memories of it. I'll be real, like early, until I'm like 5 or 6, maybe this is bad, I don't have memories of that time. Do you have memories of when you're 5 and 6?
Probably. I doubt it. Not off the top of my head, so probably not.
That makes me feel a little better. So I'm 9 years old and I'm getting into the X-Men because the show's on now, right? This storyline that they're adapting actually started the same year the original X-Men cartoon debuted. It's fascinating to look at how different the comics were versus where the cartoon was, but the cartoon got me to start reading the comics right as this was happening. And I started like 2 issues before this big story started. And I barely knew who the X-Men were because they weren't quite the team from the cartoon, right? I'm just kind of here. I'm like, who are all these extra characters? And also, this issue, 304, like this first big issue, is the first time they've seen Magneto in like 3 years in the comics. He'd been like vanished and gone, and some shit had gone down. It was like a big return, big anniversary year, because it was also the 30th anniversary of the X-Men. So this crossover that they're adapting was like the big 30th anniversary event. Shit's going insane.
Okay.
So other little notes. Kurt, you're going to teleport us all to Muir Island. I hope they handed out nose plugs, because that's a lot of fart smell and a lot of people getting over to Muir Island.
I will say, that was the first thing I thought of when Rogue wakes up and Nightcrawler is sitting there, and then he teleports just like over to the bedside, and all I could think of is Rogue just being like, Kurt, come on. like, 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 you're sitting right there. Did you have to do that? I just woke up.
Or they sit there in silence for a moment, and she's like, I need you to know that's what woke me up. That's what woke me up. That was so much. That's what woke me up.
It'll never not be funny.
When Magneto gives his big speech about how no one was there on Genosha and they can't understand what happened on Genosha, he left out a very important line that I thought he would say at the end, which was, "We were dancing to Ace of Base. I almost banged Rogue." I didn't. He didn't mention that part. That was weird.
Strange though. Oh, the one other Easter egg thing I was thinking of too. We got another Avenger back in the mix here when Morph became Hulk very quickly. So
I love that. That's a good one. Yes.
Morph smash. Good good line.
I've got two other little things. Rogue made emotional and thematic sense for why she would join Magneto.
Sure.
Personally, I thought Sunspot was just being a dick. I don't.
Yeah.
It seemed like a dick move. Like, they've done everything to help you, and your mom is a bitch. That's a dick move. And then the last, did you catch the line? What did you expect? Black leather?
Caught the line. I wasn't 100% sure what it was referencing, but it...
In the 2000 X-Men movie, the very first X-Men movie ever made, where they were all in black leather and not their comics costumes.
Oh, okay.
Wolverine's tugging on the collar going, you guys go out in these? And Cyclops goes to him, what did you expect? Yellow spandex?
Oh, nice.
And I would like to let you know that line, what did you expect black leather, gave me the largest aroused nerd boner I've ever had in my entire life. I felt so good and so alive that comics and comics media have come to the point where they will put them in the yellow costumes and no one will think twice about it. And it makes me happy.
James Marsden is shaking his head somewhere, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably not, but
he's wishing he hadn't made Superman Returns, and so is Bryan Singer. And then also, we don't talk about Bryan Singer anymore.
Although he had a excellent. I don't know. Did you watch Jury Duty at all?
No, but I've heard it was good. I heard it was really good.
Yeah, because he's really funny in it. So
I have actually wanted to watch that because I heard he was quite good in that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So add that to my list that we all say we have the list, but I will try. The final thing I have is because they flip-flop in the comics, I don't know if they'll still try to do this. Xavier had never gone that hard before, right? And it gave him such deep psychological trauma doing that to someone that was still a dear friend to him, that a astral villain formed out of it. Someone grew, a genuine evil force grew out of his psyche that turned into a massive villain that was like a year-long storyline that hunted down the X-Men and did terrible things to them. I don't know if they'll do that in the show, but gee, it sure would be neat.
Sure.
That's about everything I have for X-Men. I feel like I kept that a little more concise than I did last week. I hope that worked for you.
Indeed.
Is there anything else you'd like to say regarding the episode before we?
No, a lot going on. Ready for next week to see how they wrap this all up. Yeah.
So, I forgot what we were going to talk about next. What were we going to do next, Randy?
So I had pitched you on the idea of doing a little, this is sort of a deep dive, but I was having a conversation where someone quipped, at least it's not like the 80s and 90s where the only powerful movie stars were named Tom or something. It was something like that they were making a quip. So it was like, I started to dig a little bit more into Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks's IMDb. And this discussion sort of started with the person who brought it up, looking at Tom Hanks's 90s versus Tom Cruise's 80s and to see which Tom had the better movie decade, because it's worth noting that Tom Hanks didn't really start getting into it. I think I would say Money Pit was probably the first one in the 80s. He was in a couple other ones, right?
Splash.
Oh, Bachelor Party, actually, right?
Bachelor Party was definitely one that brought him up.
You're right, Splash, yep.
Splash was his massive breakout hit.
Mm-hmm.
Bachelor Party, Money Pit. Here's the thing. You were telling me how you didn't think he had a good 80s run, and I was ready to fight you. The difference is...
I just said comparatively, yeah.
They're playing in different sandboxes. It's not the same wheelhouse. They are both massive growing stars. Tom Cruise is a genuine massive star, but Tom
Mm-hmm.
Hanks is making good, consistent, quality content I'd watch right now. So you pick the decade. We can do 80s to 90s. I don't mind that. But I'm telling you right now that if you told me to compare his 80s, I'd happily talk about Tom Hanks's 80s.
Okay, we can zig. Let's do 80s to 80s then. We can go side by side. So I
Okay.
may be relying on you a little bit more for a couple of the Hanks movies in the 80s, but we can
Yeah.
go down that rabbit hole.
So my question then is, are we doing a full 80s and 90s? Because we try to keep this shit under 2 hours. How are we
No, no,
doing?
no. We'll just do 80s then. We'll do 80s to 80s for each person, and we won't try to get too in depth on the movies. Maybe just kind of a quick and mark as we go. I know we always say that, and then we do, but and then maybe we can evaluate. Okay, this was definitely a win, and then see what the tally ends up.
By the way, I just realized we had said that this week we were going to try to come up with villains to defeat the superhero teams that we made last week. Here's why that didn't happen. I spent 4 days after we recorded being drunk, and then I
Mm.
spent 2 more days being hungover, and now we're recording. And also, Randy has a life. So,
Oh, that. Well, you've also accused me of my superhero team was actually a super villain team. So
oh, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point.
Maybe that's the combatant, like your superhero team against my superhero question mark
I
team.
question mark in quotes. I thought of that just now because you said that we could table this for next week. And then I thought, yeah, we tabled last week something for this week and we aren't fucking doing that. So it just
Oops.
struck me as you were saying that. But we can definitely talk about Tom Hanks's and Cruise's 80s
All right.
right now.
Where do you want to start?
Are we skipping TV or are we doing TV and film?
I don't think that's fair because Cruz wasn't really in TV, right? Like, I think we have to stick to movie because
You are right. And the thing is, we can quickly just say that both of them did things that you would know,
yep.
but they weren't where they would be. Tom Cruise, 80 to 83, will say, Endless Love, Taps. I don't know Losing It. Do you know Losing It?
I don't know losing it. Yeah, the Outsiders is the first one I remember.
The
But
Outsiders. Endless Love was a hit because it had the song. The song
right.
Endless Love was written for the movie Endless Love. And then because that's what people used to do with soundtracks, they would write a song for the movie.
Candidly, I know more from Happy Gilmore than I do from Endless Love. But
No, 100% the same. And I've never seen Taps, but I know it was a very big hit and he had a
Mhm.
small part in it.
Okay.
It was very much a George C. Scott movie, I believe, as those things used to happen. The Outsiders is definitely a proper hit.
So I think we have to start in 83, right? Because that's the first one where
Yes,
they're both in a
but
movie. Yeah.
I do want to quickly hit Tom Cruise's, or God damn it, this is going to happen a lot. I'm going
Yeah.
to at Pax and Hanks's and Cruises. You're right, though, because it's funny, though, is that Tom Hanks, however, has an extremely successful 80 to 83. Tom Cruise is a working actor. Tom Hanks is a successful working actor. Does that make sense? You get my like,
Sure.
if
Yeah.
at the time, I realize Tom Cruise is about to go into the stratosphere, but if you look simply at 80 to 83, I would rank Tom Hanks above Tom Cruise in success, even though they're both just kind of grinding it out. And that's because of his TV work. He's
Sure.
on Bosom Buddies for 3 seasons. He does an episode of Happy Days. He does an episode of The Love Boat, as you did at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you are correct. 1983. By the way, though, 83, 84, before we get to movies, iconic 3-episode run as the
Oh yeah.
alcoholic embezzling brother on Family Ties.
Got to drink
Like,
the vanilla extract, right?
fucking iconic guest spots on Family Ties.
Yeah.
Had to address those. Anyway, 1983. How do you want to handle this? Do you want to take a Tom and I take a Tom, or do you want to ping pong? What do you want to
I
do?
think we can argue one way or the other. I mean, I think just from volume and the fact those 3 movies are pretty much bangers, I think Cruise wins 83. As great as I like Splash, it's to have that much of the 83 movies that Tom Cruise had there would be The Outsiders, Risky Business, and All the Right Moves. And I mean, I would probably argue Risky Business, maybe The Outsiders for putting all those actors in the forefront, not necessarily Tom Cruise. A Risky Business was a star-making vehicle. I mean, that's still talked about. I mean, all the right moves is
scene.
fine, but right. But Risky Business, hiring a prostitute for a party like you do. So
Splash was a massive hit, and it was a genuinely big, proper hit. but it didn't last the way Risky Business is still culturally relevant.
Sure.
Splash is a fun movie. The most people have talked about Splash was 2 years ago when it went on Disney Plus and they digitally blurred out her tits with a bikini because she was naked in the original movie. And they're
Yeah.
like, we can't do that.
But then Cruise takes 83 thanks to
Oh,
the
by a
lasting
mile.
flower
So
of Risky Business. So
what I want to look up, and I'm going to quickly do this real quick. I'm very curious about this. Obviously, Tom Cruise becomes like an it star, the it guy, the it person. However, I want to look up the grosses for these two different movies and see how they performed. Splash was released March 9th, 1984. Risky Business was released. Oh, wait, Splash came out in 84?
84?
I'd been saying 84 this whole podcast. And before we recorded, I was saying 84. And then it does say 83 on IMDb. But is that production date, not release date? So because I didn't think Tom Cruise did a movie till 1984. Before we recorded, I said Splash in 84. Wikipedia Splash.
Wikipedia says 84 also. Yep.
I'm going with 84 as that. So really, Tom Cruise definitely wins 83. Hi-yo.
There's no competition, yeah.
There's no competition.
Okay.
For what it's worth, if you wanted to know, though, they grossed almost identically. Risky Business made about $1 million more, 63 million worldwide versus 62 million worldwide. And do remember, that's both in 1980s dollars, so that's pretty good money. We will move on, though, because I remember this. He made the 1-2 punch. I remember this. I was a year old. I don't remember this. I am aware of this because I don't have social skills and read a lot of internet and watch a lot of movies. I am aware of the fact that he had a really good year, Tom Hanks, in 1984, releasing Splash and Bachelor Party. But the problem is that immediately, unlike Tom Cruise, who showed a lot of range in his movies, comedy, drama, good acting, Tom Hanks was immediately a comedy star, immediately a big comedy star. He's a comedy man. This idiot could never do drama. Big comedy guy. He did the Bosom Buddies. Now he's our big comedy movie star.
Yep.
And he'll never be anything else. End of podcast. Click.
Oh, that was quick. That went faster than I thought. So yeah, I think as great, Bachelor Party's great anyway. Like I don't think that but the fact that, and then Cruise didn't do anything that year, so that should make another one that's pretty much an easy wash. So
they each get a year simply by the fact that Tom Hanks didn't do an 83 and Tom Cruise didn't do an 84. Then the big showdown, 1985, where neither of them matter. There's a movie called Legend that I believe, is this a bomb? I think I heard about it.
Have you ever seen it? It's
no.
So it's not great. It's very, kind of not sci-fi.
This is a Tom Cruise movie, by the way.
Tom Cruise, correct. Yes. I'm blanking on the type of fantasy. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, and I don't like fantasy movies. We've talked about that.
Good versus evil kind of thing. Very kind of, I guess, early Lord of the Rings kind of feel to it.
Don't like Lord of the Rings.
However, I will say it has darkness, quote unquote, as the villain and is kind of a behorned devil-looking character. And I think Tim Curry was in makeup for like days. I mean, it's so long, but it is if you ever want your devil villain, like I want the one from Legend. It looks the best on screen that I've seen for a devilish villain. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could just like Tim Curry Legend. If you Google that, it looks the part. Given that I don't know the two Tom Hanks movies from '85, I mean, I would give Legend and that's not necessarily for Cruise's performance, but he's the lead in it. So.
No, I agree. I also believe Volunteers was a bomb, and I wanted to look that up right now. I'm aware of Volunteers because it is a Tom Hanks, John Candy movie, which should be comedic gold in 1985.
Yeah.
Right. But the fact that you don't know it says a lot, honestly, about it.
Yeah, why is that, I wonder?
Oh, this is where he met Rita Wilson.
Oh, okay.
This is what
so for his personal life.
For his personal life, this is where he met Rita Wilson. That's fantastic. Oh no, sorry. This is where they reconnected. They met on Bosom Buddies. She did a single episode. Thanks, Wikipedia. Now is where I think things actually finally start getting interesting because The Money Pit is a pretty big hit. The Money Pit is, I still think, talked about today, remembered today. There's memes today. there's people still like home repair will always be universal. Home repair will always frustrate people decades on. The Money Pit is a fun comedy that people dig.
If we have Top Gun and The Color of Money on the
Yeah.
other side, I think it kind of blows away. I do like The Money Pit. It's all really
I
fun,
was
rollicking comedy, but this is
I
Top Gun,
100
probably one of his top 3 roles of
yeah.
anything he's played, and The Color of Money shows him that really showed, I think, his acting chops off. Not just that he was like this bankable kind of young movie star, is that I'm gonna hold my own with Paul Newman for an hour and a half, and it's like, wow, okay, and that really showed everything up.
I don't have anything to add for that. You are 100% right. Both movies are fantastic. I just wanted to give Tom Hanks his flowers because I knew he was going to lose. I wanted to give him a little something.
Well done. And I like The Money Pit. There's nothing wrong with The Money Pit, and I don't know Nothing in Common or Every Time We Say Goodbye.
By the way, I wasn't keeping track until right now.
I was making 80 to 82 like one thing.
Okay, I just gotten confused. I just wanted to make sure. So we're doing a single point, 80 to 82 for both of them. They're nice, happy working actors, right? Confirmed?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They each get a point, respectively. Cruise 83, Hanks 84. No competition, but they're both busy, but they win their respective years by default.
Yep.
But then 85, 86 now, both Cruise. Cruise, kind of a wash in 85. It's the best of it. But in 86, he is the clear, distinct fucking champ. It's Top Gun. It's Color of Money.
He won because Tom Hanks had a bad shooting day in 85, and 86 he's flat out beat him. So
yes, there you go. Okay, so let me dial back to 1987. I love a lot of these movies. I get maybe now why you wanted to compare the 90s. I get it, but these movies deserve their love. Give me just 1 second. I got to get back to Tom Cruise so we can talk 1987. All right, here we go. I am back in business.
Oh, gotcha. He gets to win with this. That's the crazy part.
Dragnet. Was this in an episode that we kept, or was it?
It was.
I don't remember. I think it was one we actually aired, right?
It was, yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, theme songs. Was it theme songs? Anyway.
It was, yeah. It was one of my alternate theme songs I didn't actually pick. So, but
sorry. Yes, 1987. The original classic Dragnet theme, which I completely skipped over in this.
If I was screaming during that comes in really loud through my headphones.
No,
so
I know. I'm
apologies.
sorry. That's my fault too. I could have given you less volume. I just really wanted it to blow. That was my call. I just went for it.
I see.
I'm a bastard. So
amazingly, in 87, that's going to win Tom Hanks the year because Cruise didn't come out with anything. So way to go, Strebeck.
You're mocking it. It was a hit. It was well received.
Mm-hmm.
It maybe isn't favorably looked upon now because Dragnet doesn't have the cultural cachet that it used to have. The jokes about the theme song, some of the weird rap video they made. I won't play it again, I promise. But I love Dragnet. I own Dragnet. I bought a copy of Dragnet from 1987. I like this movie. And if you're going to, I refuse to just say it's winning by default. Is it? Yes. But was I ready to put up a fight for it? Also, yes. Also, yes.
I don't dislike the movie. It's just super cheesy and like so many things of their time. This was very much of its time.
And here's the thing: we're gonna get to 1988 right now.
Yeah, this is where it gets hard, man.
There is technically, if you just go by volume, Tom Cruise has 3 movies. Tom Hanks has 2 movies.
Yep.
But one of his movies is a pretty good hit, and one of his other movies is one of the best movies ever made. One of the biggest hits of all time. The thing that made him, if he was a working actor doing well in Hollywood, this is the movie that fucking made him.
Yeah.
1988 has Big. And Tom Cruise has Cocktail, which Young Guns and Rain Man. Rain Man to me is the tippity top of that personally.
He got nominated for an Oscar, right?
Yes, but so did Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, right? Yeah.
So that's a wash. Hey, oh wait, Young Guns, it's an uncredited cameo. Young Guns doesn't count. I'm disqualifying Young Guns.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was in it, and I didn't remember it. So I had seen Young Guns and thought, oh, I don't remember him in that, but that was a big hit. I'm disqualifying Young Guns. So it's 2 movies. You have to compare Cocktail and Rain Man to Big and Punchline. Punchline doesn't have the lasting power it did, but it was a big hit. A lot of people loved it. And I genuinely have trouble on this one because Big is, I don't mean big like, oh, it's big. No, Big is big as in like it is the cultural concept of what that movie is. That movie, I feel like people are still watching Big more now than they're watching Rain Man or Cocktail now. Like how we talked about how Risky Business is still referenced and still comes up. I see more of that for Big in my mind. And there's 2 scenes, right? To me, it's a 2-scene battle. Is it the piano scene in Big, or is it the escalator scene in Rain Man? And to me, it's the piano scene that wins out in pop culture and has the lasting impact. The Rain Man one is there, but the big one wins. And that's my sell. Feel free to fight me. What do you got?
Yeah, I think I have to go with that one. Yeah, it's interesting because on it, from a sheer number standpoint, I don't know if it would stack up that way when you put to say, oh, Cocktail and Rain Man. I think by and large are better if you combine Big and Punchline just from the cumulative aspect. But Big has such a lasting impact that I think it's a very, very slight win for Hanks there. I would have to agree.
And I know we're talking about his 80s and not where we're at now, but I feel like we're talking about it now. You have to look at it through the lens of history, through the lens of time.
Well, and you think of all the singular performances that Hanks has done that he's been known for, whether it's Castaway, Forrest Gump, Philadelphia, on and on and on and on. And
we're
Big
still talking about Big.
I think it makes it. I think you're right.
So Hanks gets, by default, he gets a nice solo, 87, but we're giving him 88.
Yep.
I like this. I actually really like this format. This is new for us. I enjoy this.
It's kind of a fun back and forth without having to get too crazy into everything,
Also, I'm not going to give this as a point Cocktail favor, but Cocktail is how we got Kokomo by the Beach Boys. And we address that. If we didn't say it, somebody would say that we didn't say it.
I suppose so.
Yes, and that someone would be me. I go, Randy, we forgot to talk about Kokomo. It's where I want to go to get it all.
Mike Love, noted Rolling Stones fan. So,
jeez, good callback. Forgot about that. 1989 has one of my personal all-time favorite Tom Hanks movies. I don't even see. I got to look up Tom Cruise's 1989.
He had Born on the 4th of July. That was his one.
Ooh, that's a big one. Yeah.
I think I'm sorry. That's the one he got nominated for Best Actor for.
I thought they both did. No, they both did. I thought it was. Hang on. It was. Yes, it was Born on the 4th of July. It was Paul Newman who got it for Color of Money. So there's another edge to Tom Hanks. Because he got the nomination for Big, and Tom Cruise did not get a nomination for Color of Money.
Hey, you mean Rain Man?
No, I'm talking about the. Oh yeah. I was thinking the year before. Yes, you're right.
Didn't he get a supporting actor nod though for that?
Hang on, you're right. I was thinking Color of Money. I got so fucked up. Oh, this is gonna be a lot to edit for me. You're right. They were both nominated for Best Actor in 1990. No, wait, no, because
just Cruise, right? Yeah.
So that's a definitive win for Tom Hanks in 1988. By the way, not that we hadn't already given him the win, but that really does just.
You mean Cruise?
No, Hanks in 80. Whatever the year Big came out.
Oh, for Big. Got it. Sorry.
I'm saying we had been debating it and been like, I'm pretty sure that's Big. It has to be. That adds fuel to the big fire because he did get the Oscar nomination.
Sure.
So, sorry. Back to 1989. Listen, I love The Burbs and Turner and Hooch is fun, but I'll be the first one to say that if we're talking about the bigger year, I think The Burbs kind of bombed and it became a cult classic.
Yep.
And then Turner and Hooch was fun, but I think I've seen interviews with Tom Hanks where he's like, and after The Burbs, I made a movie with a dog. And they can be well regarded, they can be liked, but Tom Cruise got an Oscar nom in a movie that's pretty damn good about the Vietnam War. So, or the aftermath of the Vietnam War. So that's a quick and easy win for Tom Cruise in 1989. You had said that you wanted to go through to 90, which means that when we do the 90s, we're going through to 2000.
Yeah, that's we're doing that later, right? And I'm not sure
Yes,
what.
but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's the
If we do that, yeah.
why
If we do that
are
format,
we
yeah.
including 90? Like, in your mind, is that because we did 80, shouldn't that have technically been the 70s? Or are we saying 81, 82 is the 2 years?
We can do, yeah. Well, let's do it that way. So we'll go 81 to 90, and then we can do 91 to
Why
2000.
that system and not 80 and 89? What is your mindset? I would like to know it.
I think there were just a couple more, just to get one more in. Honestly, that was really.
I need a better reason than that, because to me, then it's just the 90s. Then that's just a 90s thing.
uh,
I need a I need
that's
a I
a
need a
better
genuine reason that
reason.
you thought this year would be good to include.
That was really the main reason. Was it? I always envision the decade starting at the 1, but maybe it starts at the. If you want to tell me it's the 10,
No,
that's fine.
literally, that's all you needed to say. That is good for me. That
Okay.
works for me. You had not said that, and that makes sense to me. It really does. I just needed something other than I just want to talk about this movie. I needed a thing to latch on to.
I'm glad we found
Yes,
something that
I'm proud
worked.
of you. So, yeah, Hanks had a pretty good 90.
So his is what? Joe versus the Volcano and Bonfire of the Vanities?
Were both of those bombs, but Joe versus the Volcano was very critically well regarded. And I believe that's another cult hit. I fucking
It
love Joe
is,
versus the
yeah. It has
Volcano.
gained legs throughout, I think.
I adore Joe versus the Volcano. I watched it not 6 months.
Also setting the stage for Hanks and Ryan. So I think that's a good, like, another, that can't be understated. So Bonfire of the Vanities, I think Notorious was just, it apparently was a book that was really hard to film and just turn into a movie. So I see 5.6 on IMDb, and I'm surprised it's even that high. I thought it was critically not regarded very well and sort of a bomb, but
Have you seen Bonfire of the Vanities? I've never actually seen Bonfire of the Vanities.
not in its entirety. I feel like it was one of those things that was on or something. I had HBO on and then just didn't notice and then pay attention to it. So for some reason, I had it in my head as not supposed to be a comedy, and then it's supposed to be that, takedown of rich yuppie comedy. And the book was wildly successful, but then they said it was just really difficult to film, which I think I mentioned already. But so no, I have not seen it in its entirety.
So it's a drama?
Satirical black comedy, I guess. So
Oh, okay.
I
The
thought
book,
that I was wrong.
the book says it's a dramatic novel. It's a drama about ambition, racism, social class politics, and greed. And the movie says it's a satirical black comedy. Maybe that's part of why it didn't work out. They took a drama about race and class and were like, we are going to make this funny. We're going to make it a dark comedy. That could be an issue. Like, there is a part of me now that wants to watch this out of curiosity.
Yeah, same.
So, Tom Cruise's 1990 was Days of Thunder, which was a pretty big fucking hit, as I recall.
Love Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder is classic Tom Cruise, being classic Tom Cruise, being a badass box office star, and we give him the year.
It's Top Gun in a car. I mean,
There
that's
it
really what it is. But
It's Top
so
Gun in a car.
I
You're
think
right.
that's what I mean. I love Days of Thunder for multiple reasons, but I love Robert Duvall in it. Like, he's so great in that movie. But I think I have to give the edge to Cruise just because it is that bona fide kind of like superstar. That's a movie star in that role.
You absolutely said it. You're 100% right. It's Top Gun in a car. Tom Cruise being a badass Tom Cruise person, which is interesting because I feel like he got away from that in the 90s and then became that again in the 2000s.
Yeah.
He when Mission Impossible comes around in the late 90s, and that's when he starts to go, oh, I might be doing this again. He has a lot of exploring in the 90s. But that's for next week. Are we doing it next week? Are we doing this next week?
Yeah,
Is that a
why
top?
not? That's, I mean, I feel like it's going to be a worse scorecard for Cruise in the 90s, but that's my
I
just
agree.
initial thought. But as a brief tally, and I'll check my scorecard with you right here. So
Yes.
they each get a point for 81, 82.
Yes.
Cruise gets 1 for 83. Hanks gets 1 for 84. So they're tied at 2 through 84. Cruise gets 85 and 86. He's up 4-2. Hanks gets it for 87. It's 4-3. Hanks for 88, 4-4, and then Cruise takes the next two. So 6-4.
That's
Tom
what I have
Cruise
as well.
wins the
Tom
80s.
Cruise wins 1980s, 81 to 90. Because, and to your point, joking aside about why that or whatever, which by the way, good valid reason. There is something to be said, like we've talked about it with music. Pop culture doesn't make a hard change the first year of a decade.
Right.
The decade, the first year to maybe 2 years of a decade is often still the previous decade in all but name. So I'm perfectly fine with this system. So
Cool.
Tom Cruise wins the
right.
1980s
This was
when
a
put up against Tom Hanks.
random idea, but fun exercise. So we can.
I liked it, man.
We
It was
can
a
use
really
this
good
more often.
time.
Yeah.
It was really fun. My idea that we didn't do, and yours was way fucking better. I have to give you the, it was so much better. Well done. Was I wanted to look at and try to have you guess the top 10 worldwide all-time box office grossing stars. And that's all time, not just leaders. Like I'm talking people who, cumulative, across all roles and all things. But we can table that. It's nice to have some
Sure.
stuff in the back pocket to talk.
Exactly. So we're not scrambling on the day before going, what do we have? Nothing.
Yeah, we definitely didn't do that today.
Yeah.
So this has been an absolute pleasure. And look at that. Built-in, baked-in content for next week. Ready to go.
There we
so
go.
much ready. So as always, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm Mike. This is Randy. You can find me on social media at MikeBarcode. That's Mike Barcode. I am Mike Barcode. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. You can send MikeBarcode@gmail.com an email if you have criticisms, differing opinions, things you would like to yell at us about. We can take a nice compliment there as well. But if you would like to give us a nice compliment, we would much prefer you do it on your iTunes or your Spotify while leaving a 5-star review, because that's when those nice reviews really come in handy. If you want to yell at us, just hit us up directly. We got that point-to-point for telling us we're idiots.
We're used to that.
Damn right. And with that, I will say thank you for listening. As always, wherever you may be, whatever time it may be that you're listening, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Randy, take us out.
Thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.